the illegitimacy of Canada's assertion of sovereignty over Indigenous nations. To do this, we have to look at a few concepts. And the first one is equality. Now, equality is pretty simple. We know that in principle, everybody is born equal. We're all equals. And that would mean that no one person is so much better than another person that they have the right to govern them. So you got to think about that. Because that goes back to the ages of kings, monarchies, where they believed by divine right they had the right to govern other people, that they were better than other people. We're saying that doesn't exist. That's not true. That's completely invalid, and it's illegitimate. We know that when you use force, coercion, to force a people to do what you want, to impose your political will, we know that's not valid. That's not the right way of achieving any kind of consent of a people. And that's where we're starting to get into another concept, and that's legitimacy. Because when we start talking about consent and legitimacy in a political way, what we're saying is a government is not legitimate unless it has the consent of the governed. And that's important. It has a consent of the governed. Otherwise, it is not legitimate, and it's imposing its will. It's forcing people to do what they want in a very illegitimate way. So, when we look at Canada, we have to ask the key question, and that's about sovereignty. Because sovereignty means the absolute power of a nation. It means, in a Western sense of a government democracy, using the rule of law, it could also mean the absolute legal power of a nation. So what we're saying is, Canada can't exercise sovereignty if it doesn't have a legitimate claim to it. And when we say legitimacy, we're saying as equals, you have to have the consent of the governed. That means Indigenous people. And for Canada to have this absolute power to make law, and that's how it rules over the lands of the area claims, we have to ask, is that sovereignty, that absolute power, or that absolute legal power, is that legitimate? Is that legitimate? Because if it's not, then our people, Indigenous people, not only have a right to resist and oppose colonial law, in this case we're saying Canadian law, it has a duty for the sake of its own nation, for the sake of justice, and the sake of its next 7 generations, to oppose and resist colonial law that is illegitimately imposed upon the people and upon our nations. So that's what we're going to do next. Let's put this to a test. Let's put Canada's assertion of sovereignty over Indigenous nations to the test of legitimacy.